Honestly, if I would have known how hard that would have been at the beginning, I probably would have spent a lot more money on bringing the dog over here. Are you thinking about moving abroad? Well, here's what I wish we would have known in order to just save on all the headaches and the stress that came with moving abroad. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jens. My wife and I, we just moved from the United States over to Spain as digital nomads. Here are the top 10 things that I wish we would have known. Number one is the whole phone process. So we knew when we were coming over here, we weren't going to be able to keep our mobile phones back in the States just because we weren't going to pay those insane fees all the time. But what we didn't realize is that we were going to have to end up porting our numbers to Google Voice if we wanted to keep those lines and to be able to still text people back in the States. The other thing is we didn't realize that it was going to be a little bit of an issue with the data and everything. We've just ran into a few problems where we ran out of data. So we've had to either get some eSIMs temporarily just to take care of those situations. To fix that, I would just port your number the day before you leave to go outside of the United States, and you get like a 30 to 60 day long eSIM. So that way you can end up having plenty of data to use Google Maps and everything that you might need in the meantime up until you can get your phone. Number two is just gonna be the culture shock. It is a different culture out here, and they typically stay up a lot later than in the United States. We've been in a couple Airbnbs where there have been some bars or clubs nearby, and they're up partying at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And so that's just something that you're gonna have to get used to, unless you can luckily find a spot that doesn't have that nearby. Number three is gonna be the eating hours. So out here, they tend to eat a lot later. Breakfast, sure, might be about the same. Lunch is gonna be a little bit later because between the hours of 1 to 6, people are pretty much just taking a break from work and going home, maybe having lunch at the first part of it, and then just taking a break before they go back to work. A lot of people start eating dinner at around 8 or 9 p.m. So that was something that was a little bit different, and we kind of shocked by in the beginning, but we ended up starting getting used to that, and now we start eating at 8 or 9 at night. Number four is going to be a big one, and that's bringing a dog over here. Honestly, if I would have known how hard that would have been at the beginning, I probably would have spent a lot more money on bringing the dog over here. So to sort of summarize the story, our dog isn't a service animal, and he's not an emotional support animal. And so in order to bring him over, we had to do it through a third-party service that would put him underneath the plane. Now, when you're sending a dog from the United States over to a different country, you have to get a pet passport, vaccinations, certifications, and everything. And it has to be done so many days before you leave. And then you have to have that documentation mailed back to you in time before your flight. We literally ended up getting the documents the day before we ended up moving out. And so that was one of the tough parts about it, is we got those documents right before our flight was going. The other annoying thing is that the third-party shipper was just very, very bad with communication. So we didn't really have any sort of idea of what was going to happen with our dog, which was pretty nerve-wracking. And we still ended up paying a couple $1,000s to send him over there. Now, if you're a little worried about that, there are some different services where you can take a private jet with your pet, and it can be about $8,000 for one ticket and a pet to go from the east coast of the States over to the west coast of Europe. So if we just would have had a little bit more of an idea of what that whole process was going to be like and have a little bit better communication with that pet service, it would have been a lot better of a whole process for us. And that kind of brings it into number five, which is the whole transportation with the dog. It was a disaster with the third party that was taking him over there. They didn't really know what was going on. We didn't know what was going on. And he was on a different flight from us. So we ended up putting an air tag with him so we could kind of see what was going on with him. But overall, it was kind of a disaster. And because of all of that and the stress, that's one of the things where I was highly considering paying that extra money to just do the private jet to take him over here. Our next one is going to be about Airbnbs. While they've been a good experience, there's also been a couple of hiccups along the way. If you're coming with a dog, then you're going to have a lot fewer options than if you don't have a dog. One of the things that we've ended up doing is just asking the places that don't necessarily state that they can have a dog and ask for permission. And a couple of the places have granted us permission to bring them. Number six is going to be the whole process when it comes to rentals. So out here in Spain, they typically do like a 5-year rental. But in the contract, it can state that it's for a year. And then after a year, as long as you're paid up, you can cancel as long as you give the owners notice. Something specific with the island of Palma is that if they try to do it for less than a year, it's actually illegal and the owners can actually take advantage of you. So you want to make sure that if you're doing it here on the island of Palma, that you're going to at least be doing it for a year. That way you can have some tenant legal rights protecting you along the way. Number seven is just going to be overall how long things take. So out here in Spain, things just move a little bit slower. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to move out to Spain, is because we wanted a slower pace of life. But at the same time, that's one of the frustrations that we've had, is that anything that we've wanted to be able to get done has just taken a lot longer and slower of a process. Number 9 is going to be banking. So in order to be over here, and especially as a digital nomad, you have to have a long-term bank over here, because the income that you get has to go to that bank, and you have to pay taxes and Social Security out of that bank in order to be over here as a digital nomad. In order to get the bank, you have to have your legal document card, and in order to get that, you have to have the number. And right now we currently have the number, but we're still waiting on things for the document, and they push it. And that brings me back to point 8, which is they push our appointment out 2 weeks. And so it's just a lot longer of a process until we can actually get it done. The other holdup is that you can't get a phone plan. It's really hard to get a gym membership if you don't have a bank number. And the last point, number 10, is just going to be the overall paperwork and visa process. So we hired a lawyer, which has been so helpful. The only thing is that the whole government of Spain just takes forever when it comes to documents and everything. And then we went to go get our fingerprints taken for all the paperwork for our ID card. And because one little thing was input wrong in the system, we have to go get that fixed, and they tell us to come back in 2 weeks. So just kind of a long process, but these are some of the things that I wish we would have known before moving here. So I think what I'm going to do is end up making a little guide, and then if you're interested in that, just drop a comment down below, and when I do have that, I'll be able to send that over to you. So if you felt like this video was helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you feel like you want to know more about what it's like living over here in Spain as a digital nomad or expat. Tips and tricks, different things and places to see here in Spain. And other than that, stay tuned, because I think you'll like this video right here.